can talk. Enjoy it while it lasts. Good morning. I would like to call to order this meeting of the Fremont County Board of County Commissioners. Please rise for an invocation by Don Brightwell from Good News Jail and Prison Ministries, and stay standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Commissioner Bell. I invite you all to join me in prayer. Our most gracious and almighty God, we give thanks to you for your directing and sustaining hand as we face the changes and challenges, the opportunities and ordeals in our community, our state, and our nation. As we look ahead, we seek from you wisdom and direction. We pray for steadfastness and insight for our county commissioners. We ask that you will guide and strengthen all those who work for and on behalf of Fremont County. We especially lift up those whose work may take them into harm's way. Protect and keep them safe in the course of their duties. We ask that you might bless and prosper our county and our citizens, and that all we do will be to the praise of the glory of your grace. This we ask in the name of your precious Son. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bell?
Present.
Commissioner Payne?
Present.
Commissioner McFall?
Present.
County Clerk Barr? Present. County Attorney Jackson?
Present.
County Manager Bryant?
Present.
Planning and Zoning Director Coe?
Present.
Thank you. We turn now to approval of today's agenda. I am unaware of any changes we need to make.
That, Madam Chair, make a motion that we approve the agenda.
I second that.
It has been moved and seconded to approve today's agenda. Further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Payne?
Aye.
Commissioner McFall?
Aye.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next up is our consent agenda. I would like to note we are not scheduling any public hearings with today's agenda, and we have an adoption of a resolution. This resolution will be number 8, which is to correct resolution number 40 that had an error in a legal description on the plat.
I move that we accept the consent agenda.
Okay, second.
Approve, yes.
Okay. It has been moved and seconded to approve today's consent agenda. Further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner McFall?
Aye.
Commissioner Payne?
Aye.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Motion carries.
We turn next to administrative and informational topics. We will begin with staff and elected officials. I know our county manager has a report this morning, so we will turn to Sunny Bryant. Good morning, Sunny.
Good morning.
Morning.
So I have my manager's report, and then I have a sales and use tax report. On the manager's report, over the last couple weeks, we've had quite a bit going on. On Tuesday, January 10th, Commissioner Bell and I attended the Colorado Opportunity Scholarship Initiative meeting, which is, it's also known as the COSI Grant Scholarship, and the county has been participating in that, and actually I feel we've got everything just about ready. We've got applications put together. There's actually been 2 students that have been awarded grant scholarships through that, so we're really excited. It's actually state grant funds that are used as long as local funds are raised, so there was a golf tournament and different things that Commissioner Norden had been involved in to raise funds for that. So we're moving forward with that program. On Thursday, January 12th, I attended the Regional Managers Luncheon in Pueblo West. And as I report, it's a good way to network with other managers throughout the region that we're in. On Tuesday, January 17th, the commissioners and I did a goal-setting session. So we're working on updating all of our goals from last year to this year, seeing what all we've completed, seeing what else needs to be done. And so we're compiling that list. On Wednesday, January 18th, Commissioner McFall and I attended the Weed Board meeting, got an update from them on where everything is in the community. On Thursday, the 19th, I attended the Penrose Chamber of Commerce, so it's always good to get out in the Penrose community and see what they have going on out there. And then yesterday, the commissioners and I met with members from the city of Canyon City and just we're able to get an update on what's going on over at the city.
All right, thank you so much, Sunny.
So moving on then to the sales and use tax report. Okay, so the retail sales tax through November. In November, we collected $339,082, which is up $15,381 from November of last year. Year to date, we're up $172,588. The auto use tax collections, so this is our year-end number here. We collected $80,919 in the month of December, which is up $11,348. Year to date, we're up $49,764, and actually in comparison to budget, we're up $282,000. So that's a pretty substantial increase. The construction use tax, and these are preliminary numbers because we're still waiting on closeout from City of Florence and then the rest of our permits that we had through the City of Canyon City. So as of right now, we've had $11,161, which is down from last year. Year to date, we're still up $1,282 from where we were last year. So even without having final numbers, we are still up in comparison to last year. The lodging tax, we collected $464, which is down just a little bit from last year, and we'll get our next big disbursement in February, so we'll have our closeout then. But we're just about 10,000, just under 10,000 shy of where we were last year, so hopefully December comes in and we'll actually have a good amount collected then. The sheriff portion for the retail sales tax, in the month of November, we collected $226,055, which is up $10,254 from November of last year. And year to date, we're up $115,058. The auto use tax collections for the Sheriff's Department, we collected $53,946, which is up $7,566 from last year. And year to date, we were up $33,176. And then the construction use tax came in at $7,441, which is down just a little bit, but year to date we're up $810. And then, like I said, as soon as we get the final numbers, we'll do our final reports.
All right, great. Any questions or comments for Sunny?
Thank you, Sunny.
Thank you. Okay, we turn next to elected officials' reports. Commissioners?
I got nothing.
A couple of things I would like to mention. Our county manager did tell you all that we had a goal-setting session last Tuesday, and I think that went very, very well. One of the most exciting things for me during that session is to sit and be able to move everything that we got accomplished last year and to move all of those things off of our goal list onto our completed list. And we kind of keep a running total. So since I came into office in 2011, we have page after page after page of things that the commissioners and the county have been able to accomplish. And that's just a very, very exciting thing for us. The other thing I wanted to mention is next Thursday and Friday, which is February, I believe, 2nd and 3rd, I will be in Denver for Legislative Days that is sponsored by Action 22 in partnership with Club 20 and Progressive 15. Each of those organizations are basically a political action committee organization. Action 22 is 22 of the most southern, eastern counties in the state of Colorado. And it's basically our job to remind the legislature in Denver that we are not only a metropolitan state, that rural Colorado does exist. So I'm really excited to be there and go up for that. And if anyone is interested, registration is still open for that event. So give me a call, contact me. I'll be happy to set you up.
I might just mention that next 3 days, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I'll be in Denver at a Colorado Water Congress convention. And so that's a 3-day convention up there, and we'll make sure water still runs downhill. So that's,
I think you're safe.
yeah, it's a good thing. Yeah.
All right, let's move on then to citizens who may wish to address the commissioners on a matter that is not scheduled on today's agenda. Do we have anyone who would like to address us? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. We have no old business on today's agenda, so we'll move straight into new business. One of the most exciting things, I think, as a county commissioner is the ability for us to recognize our employees, our staff, our managers who are doing an amazing job. And again this morning, we bring exactly one of those stories to you. So we have the honor of recognizing some folks in our public and environmental health office this morning. So I would like to bring up Rick Miklick, who is the director of that office, to give us all the good news.
Thank you, Commissioner. I agree. The best part of my job is recognizing staff for a job well done, and I've got three of the best here with me today. I don't know exactly how many years in a row our Vital Records office has aced their audits. It's been at least 4 that I've been here. It may go back further than that. Let me a little bit of background on our Vital Records office. We issue birth and death certificates. Naturally, there are 59 offices throughout the state of Colorado that do this. Some represent multiple counties. Some have one county has multiple offices in it. We have one office in Fremont County. Does not mean that you have to live or be born or die in Fremont County. We can issue a birth or death record from anybody that was born or died in the state of Colorado. That being said, we do get people that come into our office that live in Pueblo or Colorado Springs or Salida or Westcliff that come to this office to get service because they appreciate the service they get here. It's prompt, it's accurate, and it's very gratifying that we get people from all over the state coming here to get a birth or death record. So what does the audit mean? Our office is regulated by the State Health Department, the state registrar, and as such we have regulations we need to go by, and they audit us twice a year. What that audit is they come up and they grab between 15 and 20 applications that we have done in the previous year. It's random. They base it on the DCN number. Each application has its own unique number. They'll grab this one and that one and this one and that one, and they'll look at it. And what they're going to do is they're going to look at it for 5 different criteria. Number 1 is the application complete. The birth record isn't too onerous. It's got about 2 dozen little bars on there you have to fill out. If one isn't completed, I mean, they literally look for I's dotted and T's crossed. You don't fill in the date or you do it incorrectly, you don't pass the audit. The one for the death record is much more onerous. It's quite a lengthy application. So when they get these applications, you have to make sure that everything is filled out on this thing, or again, no death certificate gets issued. We passed on that. An ID. If I walk in and I say, I want Commissioner Bell's birth record, and they're going to say, well, first of all, who are you? And so I plop down my library card and I says, I'm Rick Miklick. And they said, okay, good enough, we'll go ahead and proceed this. No, it has to be an ID that's bona fide. It has to be a picture ID from a government source, driver's license, military ID, passport, or something like that. I don't present that, I don't get a record. That's number 2 that they look at. Secondly, it has to be an eligible relationship. They're going to say, well, why do you want Commissioner Bell's birth record? Well, we kind of hang out together. We heard on some committees and some things like that. No, it has to be a bona fide relationship, mother, father, son, daughter, stepdaughter, something like that. If I don't prove that relationship, again, no record. Third thing is proof of relationship, and this one is where it gets really, really difficult. If I come in, or we had one the other day, Paula was telling me about, grandmother came in and wanted her daughter's stepson's birth record. They have to follow all that. They have to show marriage licenses and trace that. The grandmother that came in proved that the daughter is her daughter and proved that the son is her stepson by marriage. Again, this can be very onerous and very difficult paper trail to follow, but we do that, and without that, again, no birth record gets issued. Finally, the records have to match. So I prove that Debbie Bell is actually my sister. We proved that along the way. So they call it up and they say, okay, there's 132 Debbie Bells in our archive. We need to make sure we get for the right one. Or maybe not one at all. Actually, Debbie Bell was born in Kansas. One of these 103 Debbie Bells is not her. Again, no death certificate. Make sure that happens, okay? We passed every one of those categories in all of our audits, and that's where we got our 5-star award. Now, I want to bring up the people who made this impossible task happen. Come on. These are our registrars. Up here, come. I'd like to introduce Matthew Kay, who is our office manager. He is also one of our registrars. Between him is Paula Sperlin. She is the primary person who runs our record office. And I'd like to introduce Christina Taylor, who fills in whenever Matthew or Paula are not able to do their job. So these are the people who made that awesome task happen. And again, it was a pleasure to be able to introduce them and recognize them for a job well done. So
All right, very well done, yes. We would like Tammy to get a photo of the four of you together come on, yes, you too, Rick.
We go through this every
We
time.
do, so give in gracefully, move into the photo frame. Stay where you are. Don't move.
Hold that smile.
Well, I'm sorry. Congratulations again, and thank all of you so much. All right, next under new business, we have a report from the Arkansas River Roundtable, and we have with us this morning Gary Barber, Project Coordinator. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How
Good morning,
are you?
Gary.
Wonderful, thank you for being here.
Good. So I have one exception in the room, I know for sure, but who has ever heard of the Arkansas Basin Roundtable? Oh, that's pretty good. Okay, great. Folks who haven't heard of it, the Arkansas Basin Roundtable was formed in 2005 by the General Assembly. Really, it is a response to the drought we had from kind of 01 or 02 through 04 and 05. Our mission is to assess the needs of our basin and try to come up with solutions for those needs. In 2015, we published a basin implementation plan, had a bunch of outreach meetings, created a database of projects, and so for about the last year plus, I've been working as the basin coordinator, trying to implement that basin plan. So what I'm going to go through today is the report that I gave to the roundtable. We meet monthly, typically in Pueblo, and there are a couple of projects that affect Fremont County, and I think that's why Commissioner Payne wanted me to come and speak with you today. So are you going to be my clicker person? Okay. I have one that's real complicated, so we'll just kind of step through it. So this presentation actually talks about three things. I'll walk you through the purgatory because I think it's a similar or sort of parallel thing that's happening for you all here in Canyon City. And then the summary of projects I'm working on. Next slide. So the U.S. Geological Survey has done a study in the past of water quality in Pueblo Reservoir. Back in the Royal Gorge fire, the Roundtable moved a $500,000 grant to Canyon City to help mitigate the impacts of that fire because about 800,000 people depend on Pueblo Reservoir for their drinking water supply. So what's happening with fires upstream is important. We have a window of opportunity here to pursue a grant called a Water Smart grant from the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. Next slide. This shows you the drought in July of 2013. You can see Colorado and the Arkansas Basin there in the upper left-hand corner. Exceptional drought, extreme drought. I think they're running out of adjectives to describe drought. Next slide. These are timelines from 2000 to 2015, and you can see the 02 drought there and the 2013 drought. So what we're looking at is what's called a drought resiliency grant. To try to respond to that, because what's happened as the consequence of that drought is now we're having forest fires, wildfires in the upper reaches of the basin. Next slide. This is the impact from the Hayden Pass fire, and the darker the color, the greater probability of debris flow and runoff. Next slide. This is the Junkins fire, 2016. Next slide, please. And this is called a burn area emergency response. So after a fire, the fire team comes in and does an assessment. Everywhere there's a red line means 80 to 100% debris flow runoff in a storm event. So we're trying to anticipate this summer and what's going to happen. Next slide. So this is the U.S. Geological Survey study. They looked at the period 85 to 87 and 99 through 2002. And so we have a proposal from USGS as a part of this drought resiliency grant to create what's called a dashboard in our modern computer world a place where on a daily basis you could go in and see the water quality in the river, the water quality in the reservoir, and track that so that water managers can make informed decisions, as can rafters and other recreational or fishermen, folks like that. Next slide. So the study area in the original proposal was upstream of Pueblo Reservoir, particularly the Portland gauge. USGS now has gauges that are able to register water quality on a real-time basis. So they would actually put in some new gauges. And then part of the fire response for Hayden Pass is to take the, what I would call emergency gauges. USGS went up on the Waldo burn area on Highway 24, found the areas of the greatest potential flow and debris flow, put in gauges that allowed an early warning system for CDOT. So when they saw the flow in the upper reaches of the Waldo Basin, they could call CDOT. CDOT could close Highway 24 as an emergency response. So now that a lot of Waldo has been revegetated, we're going to take those gauges and move them up to the Hayden Pass fire. Part of our grant would assume new gauges would go into Junkins. And we're actually writing the grant to say in the next 2 to 3 years, we can unfortunately perhaps expect more fires. And so we want to be able to respond to those and begin to build a tool that gives us a water management tool for drought resiliency. Next slide. So here's my complicated slide. We'll sort of step through this. So project number 1 is fire restoration projects. That'll feed into the USGS data collection. Hit the button, please. Those will feed into this scientific investigation report 5056. Next slide, next button. We'll also at the same time be building the dashboard, including converting some of the main stem gauges for water quality data. All of that will feed into this report over 2 years, 17 through 19. Next slide. And then we have a third piece, which is, do we need someone to maintain this on a continuous basis? This is sort of a follow-on. So this next one's even more complicated. I said at the round table, this is how Clemson beat Alabama. Next slide. So the first source of funding is from fire recovery funds. The Bureau of Reclamation Resiliency Grant, our application deadline is February 14th. We'll find out in May if we got that grant or not. And USGS has the ability to put up their own matching dollars. So it's a combination of federal dollars, state dollars, and perhaps local dollars. We'll need local funding to probably build and maintain the dashboard. And then ultimately we'll need funding for the one more click. And we should be done. And then we'll need other funding for, one more click, for the collaborative. So a little bit complicated. If you just throw it up like that, it's pretty confusing. If you step through it, it's a little easier to follow. First, most important goal is it looks like we've got our match dollars lined up through the fire recovery funds. I'm going to spend some weekends writing the grant, and hopefully we'll make the February 14th deadline. But we're also trying to coordinate with your local folks because other people will be looking to those fire recovery funds for fire response, post-fire response. Okay, next slide, please. So our next steps is we've reviewed the USGS proposal, make sure we're going after the right grant. We may actually push the Watershed Cooperative Management Grant back a little bit because you don't need it right away. And then have tracked down now, I believe, our matching funds and make the deadline. So that's where we're going with that project. Let me stop there and see if you have questions on this one before we go on to other projects.
Well, I see we had Steve Morrissey and Rick Romano come into the room. Do you gentlemen have anything to add on this mitigation for the Hayden Pass fire? I know there's going to be a meeting in the future that all of us are going to get together and have all our resources, but just asking, I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you have something to add. Rick is probably still in mourning because the Packers lost, but.
All right, thank you. The Natural Resource Conservation Service was involved in this project day one. We do have the possibility of funding. I have put in a request for a report that would, if this qualifies, what they do is an economic study on the cost of practices and balance it with the cost of what they're protecting, lives and property. I still have not received that report. As of last night, I know it's on, hate to call it a fast track because it should have been here mid-October, but it's coming. Until then, I'm very limited in offering anything other than advice as the individual landowners come to us. And we have spent a lot of time working with the Goldale Fire Department in identifying places where they and we agree that there's a need. So right now at this point in time, like I say, all I can offer is advice.
Okay, thank you very
Any
much.
questions?
Thanks, Rick.
I'll just add on to what Rick was talking about. I've also been in contact with the USGS about providing some of the warning devices up there, the gauges, the radar, those type of things. That is being pushed at the state right now to kind of manage that with the state funds that were allotted for the fire. It's slow going. The part of the problem is they still have to find out how much they actually spent on the fires and then how much is remaining. But it looks like they're getting to the end of that process right now. So I've heard there's a loosening of funds. I'm not sure what that means at the moment as to what we'll see. But I talked with the state yesterday morning. They're looking at the possibility of very quickly funding smaller projects in the $100,000 range. I mean, this sounds large, but compared to what we need, we're looking at a couple of $1 million in projects up there easily. I've also been waiting on the Corps of Engineers. They're doing a hydrology study, which is going to help determine how much flows we're looking at, the size, the scale, that type of thing. I'm hoping to get that fairly soon. That was another one of these projects that was, we expected back in November, and it's been delayed because of other nationwide projects they're working on. So a lot of things are in flux right now. The funding from the state is not quite available, but it looks like it's coming free. There was a certain amount allotted, but I don't know what is really going to be available for all this stuff. So it's just a matter of trying to coordinate all the different agencies, all the different projects we're looking at, the funding sources, how we can best utilize those as far as using maybe state funds to match the federal match that's required. They said that's a possibility. I know the Coalition for the Upper South Platte can do the same thing. So I believe we're probably going to be meeting with one of those members probably in a couple hours, just to see where they're at on a couple projects. But to get those actual studies in there, the engineering side, we're still waiting mostly for the NRCS to get that, because we're looking at those for the bigger basins, which are two big projects, which we're trying to put in above any of the homes and the other infrastructure that's below. So we have to get that coordinated with them. Getting access onto that land requires BLM access, state land board access. So there's a lot of different moving parts in this. And again, yeah, we'll try to have a bigger meeting later on once we get some of these studies done and we have an idea of actually how much funds we have, the projects we have, and prioritizing those and seeing what we can do with what we've got rather than just kind of guessing at this point.
Okay,
So, hope that helps.
thank you.
Thank you.
I think
Thanks.
what we need
Thanks,
to take
Steve.
away is the fact that we haven't forgot our neighbors up at Coaldale. Nobody's forgot them, and there's obviously a lot of folks still working on this, along with all the people that rely on the drinking water below them, all those folks. And so still moving forward, and we're still making progress. So thank you, gentlemen.
All right, let's return to Gary.
Okay, this is a project actually down in Trinidad. I'll step through it real quickly for you. It's, next slide. In 2016, this is a head gate on the picket wire ditch right in downtown Trinidad. We approved a grant in January to do some restoration work on the Headgate, next slide. And now it's right next door to a real estate development and on the river. So there's a conversation about how do you bring the river back into the community, how do you put walkways down there, how do tourists have access to it, and respect the historic nature of the irrigation ditch. Next slide. So we had a meeting on January 18th in Trinidad to talk it through. We brought in all the stakeholders, trying to shape a scope of work for a project. Next slide. So, and then this is one, and it was interesting at the, were you on the phone at that fire recovery meeting? So I've been working with the USGS on the fire recovery stuff, and like 4 people from the Corps of Engineers in Albuquerque were there. And so I said to the USGS guy, are they working your side of the street here? What's going on? So they were nice folks. They're looking to try to understand what's going on with these storm impacts and fire impacts. So there's a project, and Commissioner Payne and I were out there a couple of weeks ago to look at it, where the channel's jumping around. There's head cutting under a sanitary sewer line, and it may have been in a conversation. The Arkansas Headwaters Recreation Area back in 2007 did a study of their whole park area and identified 4 head gates which were challenges for boating and for recreation. One of those near Buena Vista, the Helena Ditch, we got a second grant and was reconstructed to make it safer for boaters. One above that, called the Granite or Homestake Diversion Structure, is currently being studied by Colorado Springs Utilities. The other 2 ditches identified in that 2007 report were the hydraulic and the Oil Creek. So I've been in a conversation for a while with various folks, including the Oil Creek Ditch Company, about what, if anything, could happen there. Along the way, we encountered this flooding issue. So let's go to the next slide. So this is a little further downstream. You can see that corner where the river sort of makes a 90-degree right turn and then a 90-degree or left turn, I guess, and right turn from the river's perspective. Next slide. This is from the sanitation district information. Shows the land ownership. Got head cutting under the bank, which is where the sanitary sewer line is, and a recreational trail. And the question is, could you build a new channel or construct something that became both the recreational feature but avoided the future collapse of that bank? Next slide. This is what it looks like from standing there by the river. So the sewer line is up on that shelf, and you can see the river's cutting away at that bank. Next slide, please. And this is where the channel might possibly come through, and a property owner there who's next to the river who's trying to figure out, what happens in a flood. Next slide. So there is a request for proposal out at the time I gave this presentation. The city is looking at a corridor planning initiative. Next slide. And they're looking at that whole reach from sort of one end of town all the way down to Mackenzie Avenue, which obviously includes county property outside the city. And this is where is about 4 to 10 feet of drop in there. So I referred this, I think, next slide. We got our action steps. So what I do is when I go to the roundtable, and particularly the executive committee of the roundtable, ask permission to work on these projects. So I got the green light to do that on January 11th. I've referred this project to the folks from Albuquerque that I met at the meeting. They had a meeting about it on Friday. Said they were going to talk to some folks again this week. And so there may be potential to bring the Corps in to help look at the problem and come up with some designs or some options of what to do with it.
Okay.
Good?
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, and then one more slide. These are the projects I'm working on currently in the basin. Some of them are moving forward. The third one down, I'm supposed to have called this guy a month ago, and I haven't called him, so I've made it brown because I'm not quite on the green there. But otherwise, just trying to stay busy around the basin and help folks out and where we can. The title is coordinator. So to the extent I can be helpful, I'd be glad to do that.
That's quite a list right there.
I
We
appreciate
keep
your
you
time.
busy.
All
Thank
right,
you so
thank
much
you
for
very
being
much.
here this morning. All right, we turn next to several appointments that we need to make. First up is we will consider the appointment of a member to the Fremont County Weed Advisory Board to fill a vacancy with a term expiring December 31st, 2019. And in our packets, we do have a letter from Jay Adamick.
Yes, Madam Chair, we do have that letter from Jay Adamick. I make a motion that we appoint Jay Adamick for the Weed Advisory Board to fill a vacancy with a term expiring December 31st, 2019.
I second that.
All right, it has been moved and seconded to appoint Jay Adamick to the Fremont County Weed Advisory Board to fill the vacancy with a term that will expire on December 31st, 2019. Further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Payne?
Aye.
Commissioner McFall?
Aye.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next up is the consideration to reappoint both Dave Bowden and Rich Thatcher to the Board of Zoning Adjustment for additional 3-year terms that will end on February 28th of 2020.
Madam Chair, I so move.
Oh. Okay, second.
We do have letters of interest from both of the gentlemen, so it has been moved and seconded to reappoint both Dave Bowden and Rich Thatcher to the Board of Zoning Adjustment for an additional 3-year term that will end on February 28th of 2020. Further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner McFall?
Aye.
Commissioner Payne?
Aye.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
So carries.
And our last agenda item this morning is the consideration to appoint Craig Maley to the John C. Fremont Library Board for a 5-year term that will end on December 31st of 2021.
Madam Chair, make a motion that we appoint Craig Maley. Is that how we pronounce it?
I believe it is.
I think it is. To the John C. Fremont Library Board for a 5-year term ending December 31st, 2021.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to appoint Craig Maley to that post, and I do so apologize if I've completely butchered your name, but I've done the best that I can. So, further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Payne?
Aye.
Commissioner McFall?
Aye.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Motion carries.
There being no further business to come before this board, we are adjourned.
I don't figure there's any sense in repeating what you just said, so I'm so moved.
For the minutes, though, actually.
That.